my boyfriend said. You're too clingy for a future, when I was sitting there, just like any other evening, exhausted from the week and looking forward to some downtime with him. It was supposed to be one of those moments we shared where we could just be. But then, out of nowhere, he says it. He drops this bombshell like it's nothing. You're too clingy for a future. I felt the world stop. It didn't make sense. We'd been together for years, and I thought we were solid. I mean, yeah, maybe I was a bit more affectionate sometimes, but clingy? What did that even mean? He said it like it was some kind of fact, like I should have known all along, but I didn't. I was confused. My stomach dropped. I wanted to ask him to explain, but the words wouldn't come out. The look on his face said it all, like he was waiting for me to just accept it, but I couldn't. How was I supposed to understand something like that? I was shocked. My mind raced in 1,000 directions. Did I miss something? Was I too much? The anger started to build, but it was so mixed with confusion that I couldn't even process it properly. Clingy, was he joking? I looked at him, hoping he'd laugh it off, but there was nothing. No smile, no apology, nothing to ease the sting. He meant it. My first thought, why would he say that? Was it the truth, or was he just trying to push me away in the easiest way possible? I didn't know which one hurt more, the idea that I might have been too much for him, or the thought that he was using that excuse to make me feel like I wasn't enough. And it felt like I was standing there, frozen, trying to figure out how to react without losing myself in a sea of self-doubt. Was this his truth or just his way of making me feel small? The next few days were torture. It felt like a weight on my chest that I couldn't shake. I tried to bring it up again, but every time I did, he'd just brush it off. He was distant more than he'd ever been before. I couldn't understand. Was I really clingy? I kept asking myself that. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd been too attached, too needy, but I wasn't sure anymore. The more I thought about it, the more everything felt wrong. I started questioning every moment, every gesture. Was that hug too long? Was that text too many? Was I just not reading the signs? I wanted to believe it was just a bad moment, that it wasn't real, but how could I when he wouldn't even talk to me about it? The truth was, I felt lost. I kept wondering, was it me? But then I'd remember that I didn't deserve to be dismissed like this. I needed answers. I couldn't stop thinking about it. His words kept echoing in my head, louder than anything else. It hurt, but it also made me question myself. What if I had been too clingy? Maybe I had pushed him away without even realizing it. But then, there was another part of me that just couldn't accept it. I wasn't clingy. I was just in love. I wanted to be with him, and I wanted him to be with me. Was I too dependent on him? Or had he just found a way to manipulate me into questioning everything? I kept replaying our moments together, when we laughed, when we talked about the future. He'd promised me a life together. Was that all a lie? I couldn't decide. The more I thought about it, the more confused I became. Was I just clinging to someone who didn't want to be held? Or was I holding on to a dream that he was ready to wake up from? After the bombshell comment, I couldn't stop spiraling. My mind wouldn't rest. I replayed everything, our entire relationship. The way we met, the way he looked at me, the way we made plans for the future. It all seemed perfect. But now it all felt like it had been an illusion. How could I have missed the cracks? How could I have not seen the signs that he wasn't as invested as I was? I thought I knew him. No, I did know him. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But now everything felt blurry, like I was staring through glass at a version of him that wasn't real. Was I the only one who cared? Had he been secretly pulling away this whole time, while I was too blind to see? I kept trying to figure it out, but the more I thought, the more my stomach twisted. Was it always this way, or did it get worse over time? I wanted to scream. I wanted to know if all the promises he'd made to me were ever true, or if I had been fooling myself this whole time. Am I just someone he's settling for? I spent so much time replaying things in my head, but the answers never came. Instead, I felt like I was suffocating. The anger was there, but so was the sadness, the confusion, the hurt. The thought that he might be right, that I was too much, that I wasn't enough for him, kept gnawing at me. My heart felt like it was in a vice, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make the pain stop. And I hated myself for that. I hated that I was letting his words control me, but I didn't know how to stop. I remember when we first met. It was in college, and he was this quiet, mysterious guy who never seemed to fit in with the crowd. I noticed him right away. There was something about him that felt different, something real. We clicked instantly, and it felt like the universe had put us together for a reason. We spent hours talking about everything, our dreams, our fears, our futures. It was easy with him. It was comfortable. I thought we were building something special, something that would last forever. I believed in that love, the one we shared. It felt like we had our own little world, where nothing else mattered. I wanted to believe that no matter what came our way, we would be able to handle it. Together, I never felt so understood. He knew me in ways I never thought anyone could. I felt safe with him. I didn't have to hide who I was. He made me feel heard, Like I mattered. That was something I hadn't had before. His presence felt like home, and I wanted to hold on to that forever. I loved him, not just for who he was, but because he made me feel like I wasn't invisible, like I was important to him. We made plans, talked about the future, about growing old together. He was my person. But then, things started to shift. It wasn't huge at first, just small things. He'd cancel plans more often, saying he was too busy with work. He'd become irritable when I'd ask if we could spend time together. It was subtle at first. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a phase. He was stressed. He had a lot going on. But then, the changes kept happening. He'd be distant, more withdrawn. I'd text him, and it would take hours for him to respond. I didn't want to overthink it, but something didn't feel right. I started to sense a distance between us, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to make things worse. I didn't want to push him away further. So, I stayed quiet. I tried harder, maybe too hard. I'd send him sweet messages, try to get him to open up. But he wouldn't. I could feel him slipping away, but I didn't know how to stop it. We were supposed to be in this together. Why wasn't he talking to me? Why wasn't he seeing me? But I never asked. I couldn't. The fear of pushing him away made me stay silent, and that silence ate away at me. Little by little, the more I looked at him, the more I saw the person he had become, not the person I had fallen in love with. He was emotionally distant. When he looked at me, there was no spark, just emptiness. I was scared. I kept telling myself it wasn't that bad, but deep down, I knew it was. It wasn't just about the missed dates or canceled plans. It was about the way he wasn't looking at me anymore. It was about the moments we used to share that now felt forced. I started questioning everything. Was I still the person he loved? Or had I become a burden? The cracks in our relationship were no longer something I could ignore. The trust I had in him, the one I thought was unbreakable, was slowly fading. I'd see him pull away, more and more. He'd stay on his phone longer than necessary, avoid physical touch, and when we did spend time together, it felt forced. Like he was counting the minutes until it was over. I didn't know what to do. I tried talking to him, tried asking if something was wrong, but every time I did, he would say I was overreacting. It's just work, he'd say, or I'm just tired. But it wasn't just that. I could feel it. I could feel him slipping away, and it terrified me. I started questioning myself, wondering if I was doing something wrong. I became self-conscious. Was I not giving him enough space? Was I too clingy? I felt lost, unsure of what to do next. The more I tried to reach out, the more he pulled away. It felt like I was holding on to a relationship that he had already let go of, and that realization hurt deeper than anything I had ever felt. The doubts in my mind started to grow, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. There were too many late nights at work, too many unexplained phone calls that he would quickly end when I walked into the room. I started noticing little things that didn't make sense. His answers seemed vague, and when I asked about his plans or where he had been, his responses felt off. I confronted him a few times, asking if he was seeing someone else, but he'd always brush it off with a laugh, like I was crazy for thinking such a thing. But I wasn't stupid. I knew when someone was hiding something, and I could feel the walls he was building around himself. I didn't want to believe it, but part of me knew the truth. There were lies, and he wasn't being honest with me. Each time he gave me a half-hearted excuse, it felt like a dagger in my chest. Why couldn't he just tell me the truth? Why couldn't he just admit what was going on? I hated that he was lying, and I hated even more that I was too afraid to face the reality of what was happening. At first I told myself I was just being paranoid. I'd overthink things. Maybe I was reading too much into his behavior. But then, the gaslighting started. It wasn't just the lies anymore. It was the way he made me feel like I was the one in the wrong for even questioning him. When I asked about his behavior, he'd tell me I was being too clingy or insecure. He'd make me feel like I was the crazy one for wanting to know what was going on. Why do you always have to overreact? He'd say. You're just making a big deal out of nothing. Every time I tried to address my concerns, he would twist my words, making me doubt my own feelings. It was like a never-ending loop. I'd feel something was wrong, confront him, and then he'd turn it around and make me feel like I was the one causing problems. Slowly, I started questioning myself more and more. Maybe I was too clingy. Maybe I was being unreasonable. Maybe I was the problem all along. And every time I thought I was sure of what was happening, he would come back with the same excuse. You're just too sensitive. And for a while, I believed him. The emotional distance between us became unbearable. We no longer shared the easy moments we used to, laughing over silly jokes, talking about our dreams, planning for the future. It felt like we were two strangers living in the same space. I tried to keep things together. I tried harder than I ever had before. But the more I tried, the more he pulled away. I couldn't tell if it was because he was tired of me, or if it was because I was too much for him. There were days when I felt invisible. I tried to initiate conversations, but it felt like he wasn't even listening. When I needed him the most, he wasn't there. I could feel it. He was withdrawing, and I was helpless. The worst part, I didn't know how to fix it. Every time I tried to get close to him, I felt more like a stranger to him. The love we had, the connection I thought we shared, started to feel like a distant memory, one I wasn't sure I could reach anymore, and it hurt more than I could put into words. I had given everything, but now it felt like I was losing him and I didn't know why. I couldn't take it anymore. The silence, the distance, the lies. I had to know the truth. So, I did what I had been avoiding for months. I confronted him. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when I knew deep down it wasn't. "Are you seeing someone else?" I asked, my voice shaking. He froze. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then he looked at me, and I saw the truth in his eyes. "I don't want to hurt you," he started, but I didn't need to hear the rest. I already knew. He admitted it. The words felt like a punch to the gut. He'd been seeing someone else for months. It didn't make sense. All the time we'd spent together, the plans we'd made. How could he do this? How could he betray me like this? I was in shock. I didn't know what to say or how to respond. All I could do was stare at him. My heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. The person I had loved, the person I had trusted with everything, was now just a stranger to me. It was like everything I thought I knew about him was a lie. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight, but I couldn't. I was too crushed, too broken to even speak. All I could do was sit there, numb, as he kept talking. Every word out of his mouth felt like a betrayal. The trust we had shared was gone, completely gone. I couldn't even look at him the same way anymore. I didn't know who he was. This person, the one sitting in front of me, wasn't the man I had fallen in love with. He wasn't the man I had trusted with my heart. And that hurt more than anything. The realization that I had been so blind to, the truth that I had let him manipulate me, that I had ignored all the signs. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to move on from this. My whole world was upside down, and I didn't know how to fix it. I was a mess. Anger, sadness, betrayal, they all hit me at once, and I couldn't control it. I wanted to scream, to hit something, too, make him feel the pain I was feeling. But instead, all I could do was cry. How could he do this to me? The guilt gnawed at me too. I kept wondering if I could have seen the signs earlier. Had I been too clingy? Was I too much? It wasn't just that he had cheated on MIT, it was that he had made me doubt myself. He had made me believe that I wasn't enough, that I had to change for him to love me. And that realization, it hurt more than anything he had ever done to me. I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know how to make sense of any of this. All I knew was that I was lost. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was him with her. It felt like I was suffocating in the weight of everything he had done. I couldn't escape it. It was like the betrayal was etched into my skin, a reminder of everything I had lost. I spent so much time replaying the past in my head. Where did it go wrong? Why hadn't I seen it before? I kept thinking about all the little things I had missed, the signs that should have told me something was wrong. But the hardest part was knowing that the person I loved didn't love me the same way. And the worst part, I still missed him. Even after everything he had done to me, a part of me still wanted him back. The emotional fallout hit me like a wave. One moment I was numb, and the next I was crying uncontrollably. I couldn't understand how someone who had been such a big part of my life could now be the source of so much pain. I didn't want to feel this way. I didn't want to hurt anymore, but I did. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. I had to face the consequences of it all. My relationship was over, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fix it. I couldn't turn back time and change everything that had happened. The damage was done, and I had to accept that. But even though it hurt, I knew I had to let go. I couldn't keep holding on to something that wasn't real anymore. The hardest part was moving on. I tried to focus on myself, tried to heal, but it was hard. I still loved him, and I still wanted to believe that we could make it work. But I knew deep down that it was never going to be the same. So I focused on what I could control myself. I worked on rebuilding my life, taking baby steps to heal. It wasn't easy, and I didn't know how long it would take, but I had to keep moving forward. Eventually, I reached a point where I realized that letting go was the only way to move on. It didn't happen overnight, but bit by bit, I started accepting that what we had was gone. It wasn't my fault, and it wasn't his either. Sometimes things just don't work out, and that was okay. I was stronger now, and though the pain would always be there, it didn't define me anymore. This whole experience taught me so much. I realized that I had been holding on to someone who wasn't holding on to me the same way. I had given so much of myself, and in the end, I had to learn to give that same love to myself. I understood now that I didn't need to depend on someone else for my worth. I was enough, just as I was. It took a lot of pain to get there, but I finally understood that I deserved to be loved by someone who didn't make me question myself every day. I learned that betrayal hurts, but it also teaches you about your own strength. I was broken for a while, but in the end, I put the pieces back together. Betrayal isn't just about someone else's choices, it's also about what you choose for yourself. I chose to move forward. I chose to rebuild. And though it hurt, I'm stronger for it. What I've learned through this heartbreak is that betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't define who I am. It showed me how strong I am, how capable I am of getting back up when life knocks me down. It's painful, so painful, to let go of someone you thought you'd have forever. But what I realized, the hard way, is that if someone truly values you, they won't make you question your worth. I was lost for a while, stuck in this cycle of doubt and pain, thinking I had to prove something to him, thinking I had to change myself to fit into his version of love. But the truth is, I don't have to change for anyone. I am enough as I am. This whole experience has been one of growth, something I never asked for, but something that I needed. I'm not saying I'm over it. I'm not saying the scars aren't there, because they are. But what I've learned is that I'm stronger than I gave myself credit for. I thought I would never be able to love again, or that I'd never be able to trust again. But with time, I realized that it wasn't about him. It was about me. Betrayal makes you question everything, but it also forces you to look at yourself in a way that nothing else does. I had to come to terms with the fact that I let myself stay in something that didn't serve me. And once I faced that, once I understood that I wasn't the problem, I started to heal. You don't need someone else to validate your worth. Your value comes from within. And while the journey was messy and painful, it taught me that no one has the power to break me unless I give it to them. I took back my power, and now I'm building something new. If you've been through something like this, or if you're dealing with betrayal right now, I want you to know you're not alone. We all have those moments where we feel like we've lost everything, but we haven't. We're still here, and we're still growing. If you've gone through your own version of this story, or if you want to share your thoughts, please drop a comment below. Let's create a space where we can all heal together.